Hello, angels. It is Marita Joyce, and I am back with another video. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust, guys. I am just not happy with this light. The lighting in this room is yellow. It's really bad, but we'll work on that one day. Okay, so let me get right to it. This live is about conversations to have with your doula. So I've met with quite a few of my doula clients, of my birth clients, and we get into our meeting and I start talking. Obviously, birth plans are up for discussion. There's many things that you can talk about. But one of the things I find is a lot of times when I ask the mom or the dad, a lot of times dad is there as well in these prenatal meetings. And I ask, well, do you guys have any questions? Do you have anything that you want to talk about? Sometimes they are unsure of what they want to talk about. A lot of times they are just looking to me to start the conversation and talk about things, which is totally fine. But I think it is in the best interest of the parents to come prepared with at least one topic. And the reason I say that is because your situation is so individual. Your birth is so individual. What you desire and your dream, you have an idea in your mind about how you want your birth, your pregnancy, your birth, and the immediate postpartum period to play out. And being able to communicate that to your doula is super important so that when this all is said and done, you feel like you got what you needed. You feel more satisfied with your birth story, and you feel more confident that you did the right thing in terms of like hiring a doula and doing, all the things that you needed to do to prepare for the birth. So I was nice enough to grab a couple of ideas and talk about some of the things that you could possibly discuss in your birth. One thing I do want to point out, and I want to say that in this video, this is completely educational. None of this is medical advice. I am not your medical professional. I am not giving any sort of medical advice or anything pertaining to your particular health situation. As a doula, doulas do not handle the medical portion of your care. We are for emotional and physical support. That is pretty much it. And some informational support. So that is the scope of a doula. If you are interested in somebody making sure that you have a vaginal birth, making sure that you don't have an epidural, and all of these things that pretty much are outside of a doula scope of practice, that is not something that we can guarantee you. Our job is to fully support you. Our job is to help you to better advocate for yourself. Our job is to help you come up with a plan. And our job is to remind you in the moments where you may not be 100% firing on all cylinders of what you planned and what you wanted in the moments prior to being in the birthing suite, when you were calm, comfortable, and at your baseline. Okay. So that is what doulas generally do. And so we are preparing you for the birth, preparing you for your immediate postpartum period, and even with some breastfeeding and some resources. So if you're having trouble figuring out what you need to do about a certain situation, some of those resources we're able to provide for you. Okay. So I have a list here, some information from some previous things that I've gone through, trainings and just different things, and I've combined and changed my list. But these are some of the things that you can talk about if you are meeting with your doula and you just need some discussion. Okay. So first thing, prenatal nutrition. Now, again, doulas are not dietitians. We are not medical physicians. We are not operating in any medical capacity at all. So for instance, healthy eating discussions is you have been having honey buns and tzatziki's and flaming hot Cheetos for 3 days, or maybe you have been on a McDonald's binge or a Taco Bell binge. No judgment. This happens sometimes even with people who are not pregnant, right? And we have difficulty controlling our cravings for donuts and ice cream and all of the different things that are just scrumptiously delicious, but may not be the best for us. So there's no judgment that happens, I think, to everybody. There's something that we enjoy that may not be the best for us. So having this discussion is not about the doula giving you medical advice or creating any kind of eating plan for you or anything like that, but just kind of helping to encourage you. For instance, my weakness is vanilla ice cream. Let's just say vanilla ice cream is my weakness. And I know that eating a tub of ice cream every night is probably not the best thing for me, especially if I'm lactose intolerant or I have some other issue with maybe I shouldn't be getting as much sugar in my diet. So I'm coming to my appointment with my doula and I'm saying, hey, can we have a prenatal nutrition discussion? Can we talk about healthy eating? The reason I bring this up is because I know I probably shouldn't be having a tub of vanilla ice cream every night, but that's what I crave, right? And so the emotional support component comes in here, and your doula can ask questions about, what are the feelings that come up before you have this ice cream? Because not all of our eating choices are just strictly hunger based. Sometimes it could be an emotional thing, and maybe addressing some of those things could be helpful, right? Also, coming up with ideas for other things that you could do during that time period. So different things like that could be helpful. It doesn't have to be medical in nature. Now, if there is something that's seriously going on there, the doula could perhaps suggest that you do need to speak with your provider, because this is totally outside of my scope as a doula, and I don't want to give you any nutritional advice. And this sounds like something that needs to go to be talked about with your doctor or whoever your obstetrical provider is. This is something that you need to talk to them about. And then at that time, that's something you carry over. But if it's something just minor and it's not a big deal, but it is something that you kind of want to talk about because you've noticed it and you kind of want to get a handle on it and you want somebody to maybe be an accountability partner, that would be helpful. Strategies for managing nausea may or may not be a thing that your doula can discuss with you. Nutrient requirement and supplements. I think the nutrient requirements and supplements are something that definitely needs to be talked about with the provider. And a lot of times I do get questions about, well, what's the best supplements to take? That to me is a provider question. So your doula will let you know. Physical change, body changes during the first trimester. During each trimester, this is something definitely that your doula can talk about with you and kind of give you some ideas on some things that you might see or feel. And yeah, it could be a fun little talk. Weight gain and body image discussions. This can be a big one. One of the reasons that weight gain and body image is such a big deal is because we see a lot of our celebrities and movie stars and they're 9 months pregnant and you can see that they're just filled with baby. And then it seems like they deliver the baby and magically they look amazing, right? And we wonder like, wow, is this realistic? Like, is this a real thing? Now, granted, there are some women who aren't celebrities who bounce back after a baby and they slide in their size 0 jeans right at the hospital. I've seen it. I've had friends that gave birth and got right up and put on their size 0 jeans again and waddled right on out of the hospital like nothing happened. This happens. It is some women's normal, but it is very rare and it's not generally what happens across the board. So we see this happening and we are hard on ourselves because we think, well, I got to get back to my pre-baby body immediately. And as women, our bodies are made to carry babies, and that is a process, and they change and they adjust based on the needs of what we're going through. and they readjust afterwards, and we work towards that, right? And so um, a lot of times we are, I don't want to say deceived, but what we see a lot of times does not is incongruent with what actually happens in our own personal lives, and that can bring with it a certain amount of doubt or feelings of confusion. And so this is definitely something that you can talk about with your doula. And safe exercise during pregnancy. I generally get this question, well, what kind of exercise can I do? Again, this is a provider question, because your provider is going to assess all of your other health history, your whole big picture. And doulas don't have a big picture of your health history because we're not your healthcare provider. So for us to give you advice without knowing that information would be a disservice, right? So just kind of understand it in that capacity. Birth planning. Birth planning is a big part of the doula project. This is one of my favorites. I love to ask my clients, what's your dream birth? And I'm just smiling from ear to ear because I'm excited to hear about what they want to see happen during their birth. What is their idea? And so funny, just like every birth is different, every woman is unique and different. Every parent, and I asked both mom and dad, what's their birth dream, is so different. And what they want is so different. Everybody's so different. Some people want epidurals. They want the whole shebang. They want, everything that is to be offered. And then some people are like, no, I want it all natural. I don't want anything. And then there's some people that are in between. They're like, yeah, I want to do this. But if things don't work out, that's okay too. I'm flexible. And I just think it's beautiful. And I think as a doula, one of the huge parts of my job is to make sure that I'm supporting that mom in her dream birth. So I don't choose for the moms. I like to hear what their stories are. And then we create a plan that supports that dream birth. So I'm always excited to talk about comprehensive birth plans or discussing birth options. Birth options are a big part of the doula discussion in these meetings because every mother wants something different. Preferences for comfort. These can vary as well. Some moms want to have the doula there helping, and then they want to move on to getting their epidural later. Some moms want to go completely natural. Some moms want to have nitrous oxide, laughing gas. So it's just, there's so many different things. I like to bring my combs and all kinds of things. And I also like to present myself. A lot of my clients will squeeze my hand and, I'm standing there, I'm like, squeeze it as hard as you can. You can squeeze it. You're not going to break it, and I give them 2 fingers or whatever. And they never squeeze as hard as I imagine. I'm so disappointed. You guys got to squeeze harder. But I know they're probably not trying to hurt me, but I'm like, go ahead, do it, let it all out. And they're kind of just looking at me like, are you sure? Like, yes, do it. You can squeeze it. Go ahead. Or I'll give them my comb. I have the birthing comb. And so, yeah, they're always so sweet, though. They don't want to hurt my little hands, so they don't squeeze it as hard as I imagine. I'm always disappointed. So it's like reaching out your hand for a handshake and somebody gives you that little limp handshake and you're like, what was that? Like, am I that, like, do I look that fragile? I mean, come on, you can really give it to me. So yeah, I love it. I love how sweet and kind all of these mothers are. They're very sweet. All right. So understanding hospital policies. This is a thing. Sometimes what I will do before a client delivers, I will go and visit their facility. Not always, but sometimes I do like to do this. And it serves a bunch of different purposes. One is I get to see how the hospital's laid out. I get to kind of figure out how my route and where I'm going and all of the different things. And also it gives me a chance to see what all supplies the hospitals have. Are they going to have a ball? Are they going to have a peanut ball? Do they have a birthing tub? Like what all are we working with? Do they have cordless electronic fetal monitors. Like, what do they have? And when I know what they have, then I can come back and I can talk to my client and say, hey, by the way, I visited your hospital last week and this is what we're working with. And that's always very exciting for the clients, because they're like, oh, that's great. Like, I've gone to the hospital sometimes before they have, and they're like, oh, cool, that's really cool, that's really cool, we're planning to go next week. And so then we can have our conversation. I've even gone to some of the birthing classes before my clients to kind of get an idea. And it was a wonderful experience. And the birthing instructors were all amazing. So that's one of the things I do. That's one of the services that I provide. It's not listed in my list of services, but it is something that I try to do for a lot of my clients. And I love it. It's fun. I always learn something new. And I always get, great joy in being in this room full of women, and you have to stand up and introduce yourself and say why you're there. And everybody's pregnant except me. And so then I mention, I'm a doula. I'm here for one of my clients. And it's just a great experience. And I sit down, and instead of having to teach, I get to sit there and I get to learn. And some of the childbirth education instructors are so good, and I always learn new things for them, and I highly respect them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And then emotional well-being, coping strategies for mood swings, stress reduction techniques, and open discussion about fears. I hamper down on that fear thing. I'm a huge believer that you need to minimize fear going into the birthing suite. And we talk about fear from the moment my clients hire me all the way through, because I want to minimize the fear around birth and what happens when giving birth. And that is a part of my birth plan. I mean, that is a part of the birth planning process. So when I'm doing their birth plan, we talk a lot about fears. I ask right away, what are your fears? I ask mom and I ask dad, what are your fears? Let's talk about those things. Now we got months to work through it. We got time to get through those fears and make sure those things are addressed, because it's really important to address the fears. So childbirth education, the stages of labor information. You can talk about breathing and relaxation exercises, positions for labor and delivery, explanation of comfort measures and comfort measure options. Also, the options that are available to moms. And this differs, and this is provider specific as well. So a lot of times I will just direct the mom to her provider and say, hey, you should ask your physician about this. You should talk to your physician. Your physician can speak with whoever they need to speak to or whatever. So that can be very specific, but stages of labor and breathing and relaxation exercises. These are great topics. Positions for labor and delivery. It just depends on where birth is happening. If it's happening in the birth center, if this is a nurse midwife coming into the home and you're attending a home birth, I do not attend births unless there is a midwife present. So a lot of these things, I don't step on the toes of the professional who is working there and taking care of mom's medical. I allow them to determine what positions they need their patient in, and I assist from there. Okay. So I don't get a lot into the positions and things like that, because again, the mom, the dad, and the professional and their safety. And then I try to support as much around that. So that's how that works out. Prenatal visits can also consist of partner involvement. We just talked about how dad will show up. So what I do is a free consultation. I say, hey, you can bring anybody to your consultation. So I've had an entire family show up and just ask me questions in a consultation. But generally it's mom and dad that show up. And then from there, after they hire me, we start the meetings, and I also open up those meetings again. Bring whoever you want. Generally it's mom and dad. And we talk about, how does dad need to be supported? Because that is a part of my job as well. I not only support mom, but I support dad in helping him to best support mom. So again, the father, the partner, is the person that helped make the baby. Generally, this is the person that my client knows the best and that loves and that knows her the best. So I don't try to replace them. What I do is I find out how best I can help them to support their partner. And then we coordinate it. And sometimes we tag in and tag out. If the partner is feeling like he may pass out or he has some other issue that he needs me to support him in, I'm right there. I usually generally will stand beside the partner during the birth, but I let them take the center stage, and I just let them know, hey, I'm here. If you need to sit, if you need my assistance, if you need water, just let me know. And we're both kind of cheerleading and cheering mom on from the sides. If dad needs to tap out, I tap him out and I tap in. That is how I do it. I never try to take the place of family members or anybody in that birth circle that is intimately connected with this mother, because it's really important for family to be first and forefront in this birth if that is what the mother wants. And my job is to fully support that. So that's the way I do that. And yeah, it generally works out. Addressing the partner's questions and concerns. Yes, during the prenatal meetings, I address the partner's concern. So the partner talks about whatever is bothering them, whatever they're concerned about, whatever worries them. Generally, dads are just wanting to make sure mom is okay. That's the biggest thing for them, which I think is so sweet. I've seen the most beautiful interactions between man and woman during births. Really, really men who are just doing their thing. You dads are amazing. They are sometimes first-time fathers, and the way they orchestrate and organize, and they're on top of everything. You can see their protective tendencies and instincts coming out, and you can just see that they really love their partner, and it's just beautiful to me. I love it so much. So yeah, partners are very important, and we definitely address their concerns and questions. Hospital policies. We just kind of talked about hospital policies. Explanation of hospital policies and procedures, discussing the client's preferences within those policies. So what I generally will do is when a client brings up something, with my background in medical, in healthcare, I can kind of guess what's a general policy. I will just say, hey, we will have to ask the hospital. I think this may be against the policy. This is something that we definitely need to ask. And generally it is the parent that will need to ask that, not me. So, but I do kind of let them know this is not something I can make a decision on. This is at the discretion of the hospital. So if they're asking me to put something in their birth plan that with my years of experience in the hospital that I know is like, this is generally not something that's a part of, the hospital, then at that moment I will say, well, this is something that you probably need to talk to your physician about, or talk to your nurses or your providers when you get to the hospital, because I can't give them permission to do something that is against hospital policy. And if I am doing something in the hospital, I will ask for permission first from the nurses, from the physician, always getting permission. It is important for when we're in someone else's home. And I do consider the facilities to be the homes of those professionals. We need to ask for permission and we need to respect them. I believe very strongly in that, and I don't go in with attitudes. I don't do any of those things. I make sure I respect and I work as a partner and on a team level, as a coherent team with the medical people. The way I think of it is my client has chosen these medical professionals to be over their care, and I need to work with them in that, and I need to respect them in that, because my client chose them, which means to me that that is what they want. And so we're going to work together as best as possible to make sure that the one person and one thing we have in common is this client, which is their patient, to be happy, healthy, and safe. And so we can work together to do that. So that's how I approach that. And let's see. Communication with your doula, establishing preferred communication methods and availability for questions, support between visits. This is all written out in my documentation. I already write out how you can best communicate with me. And sometimes we alternate and switch that up and change it. Sometimes my clients are texting me a lot. And if it's something that I deem to be conversation worthy, I would just say, I'll send a quick text back and say, hey, do you have a minute to chat? Because everything is not it's not conducive to text message. So some things need to be discussed. We live in a text world. Everybody wants to text now, and that's great, but everything is not conducive to text message. And so I will send a text and say, hey, do you have a few minutes to talk? And some subjects I will want to discuss verbally. All right, we're almost at the bottom of this thing. High-risk pregnancy, emotional support for high-risk pregnancies, and information on medical conditions. No. No, okay. This is a general list that I got from a training, and I'm just going to say that information on medical conditions is a no for me. That it comes from the medical professionals. Emotional support for high-risk pregnancies, yes, that's an absolute yes, because that is what doulas do. But information on medical conditions, that's best given by the medical professional. It's best discussed with the physician. Cultural and individual preferences, respect for cultural preferences. Yes, 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 yes. I love, love, love the varied cultures and the perspectives and seeing how various cultures do birth. That is one of the most fascinating parts of my job. I think I should have been an anthropologist. I love anthropology. I love cultures. I'm very, very interested in that. So yeah, this is, I try to be, listen, I write birth stories after my clients give birth. And that is where I try to drop some of the cultural things in there, from various cultures, to using their language, to incorporating things that, that they, little intricate things that happened during the birth that they highlighted, all of those things that are significant to their culture. I try to make sure that I cement that thing in there for them, because I think that brings the joy into the birth. And clients will mention things to me from their culture. They'll tell me about their culture. I learned so much about them during the birth process, about their cultures, which is so fascinating. And I try to support them. If a client is telling me, oh, in my culture, this is what we do, then I'm like, okay, like, show me, teach me that, like, show me that. Okay, yeah, we can work that in there. And we try to work that in because it's really, really cool. And let's see what else. Tailored support for individual needs. This is so important. Treating each of you guys as an individual is so important. No two births are alike. Even with the same woman, they're all different. So each birth should be treated individually. I believe in that. Postpartum mood disorders, recognition of sign, resources for mental health support. Yeah. So doulas get, training in how to recognize that a mother may need to go and talk to somebody, because the doulas we're not qualified as a doula to give any sort of mental health support, emotional support, but not in the terms of mental health support. That's something for a mental health professional. But if we do see things that is within our training to say, hey, maybe you should talk to someone, then yes, the doula can do that. Community resources, connection to local resources, information on support groups and classes. Yes, 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 yes. Connection to local resources. Depending on the doula that you get, some doulas are very strong in this area. I'm one of them. Connection to local resources. I have a compiled list. It's like way long. And my clients haven't even really utilized a lot of it, but there's lots of resources on my list. Support groups and classes. I do encourage my clients to go to classes and things like that. And then I will talk to them about things as well. So it just depends. All right, that is pretty much it for things to talk to your doula about. You guys have so many ideas. I think that now you will be totally fine my clients, now when you come to me, you're going to have all these questions. You're going to rapid fire them out to me, and I'll be able to answer them all. The ones that I'm not able to answer, I will be able to go out and find the information for you and get back to you with the answer. So I think that's it. My notes are done. I'm finished here. I have enjoyed this time with you guys. I will see you on the next video. This one was very long. Thank you so much. I would like you to subscribe, and that is all.